Well, in all fairness, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Sansa using the toilets. He is human after all. But thank you very much for that, Googs. We're now joined in studio by Zain Semaar, one of our news editors here at Newzroom Africa. Zain, good morning.
Good morning, Sizwe.
So what stories are we chasing today?
Well, the big stories of the day is Eskom and the continuing rain.
Yes.
So we continue to track the implications and the consequences of the flood. Today we're going to the Hennops Bridge and on the R55, just outside of Tshwane. We have had reports that the bridge is about on the verge of collapse. So all the roads around there have been closed down. Apparently the water levels have reached quite critical levels at the bridge. So we continue to bring you stories and updates of the effects of the river. We're also going around, obviously, to the low-lying areas along the Yekske River. Usually this time of the year with all the rains, I would expect that this time with the amount of rain we've received, that there will be a lot more for emergency services to do. While in Cape Town, quite ironically, it's fire season. And so in Cape Town, last week has had a huge mountain fire. At the same time, the city has had problems with its fire services. As you will remember, some of those fire services have gone on strike as a result of disputes about working conditions and so on. So quite an interesting time. Also in Cape Town, we have a huge amount of shack fires. And a lot of them are said to be started by electric pylons that fall down on settlements and thereby sparking fires. So quite an interesting kind of almost irony between Cape Town, what's happening in Cape Town at the moment, and what's happening in Johannesburg.
So you always find that in extreme weather conditions, it's the people that don't have any resources or any money at all that get affected the most, right? So you're speaking about shack fires, for example, in Cape Town. Yesterday we saw about 1,000 shacks getting swept away with the floods.
Yes.
And the thing is, when we spoke to Robert Molawuti last week, he was telling us that, you know, we know where the flood lines are, but people go and occupy those areas during dry season because they feel like, oh, it's just land that we can occupy and start building there.
Yes.
You remember even when Julius Malema basically encouraged people to go occupy any vacant land.
Yes.
A lot of people started building, I think it was around about the Pretoria area, and then when the floods came, all of those houses have been washed away now. So yeah, man, it's it's sad when you think about it, because the people that suffer the most, who already have nothing, now have their belongings swept away with the water and then also damaged by fire in Cape Town.
Yeah, and obviously this problem is now compounded by what we're calling stage 6 load shedding. So we continue to cover that to you. We'll try and explain to you what stage 6 exactly means. We'll be going to Megawatt Park, and we'll be going to smaller businesses to talk about how load shedding is actually affecting the man on the street. Right?
Yeah, now that's the biggest mess, right? Because even traffic lights aren't working, and during the rain, people already drive dangerously. I mean, traffic, some people were stuck in traffic yesterday for like 2 hours trying to get to work in the morning. Not quite sure what it was like in the afternoon.
And then lastly, we continue obviously to track the big political stories, 2 of which are happening this week. The SSCP Congress, non-elective Congress, is continuing today. Its Secretary and Higher Education Minister, Bladen Zamande, is expected to give an address today. And then also the EFF, in view of the elective conference happening this weekend at Nasrec, we bring you like a feature of the top 6, who the leaders are, what they're about, what leadership positions are up for change, who's likely to occupy those positions.
Very interesting. On Sunday as well, if you saw our colleague Kathy Moshashana's interview with Julius Malema, she actually asked him if he's identified anybody in the party that is good for succession.
Yeah.
And he spoke about the student command, right? Yeah. And then she posed the question to him, but this is the same student command that you called useless. So why would you suddenly think they're strong enough to lead the party? Yeah. And I personally wasn't convinced by his answer, but if you were, maybe you can go back and watch. It's online.
I did watch it, and I think the answer to that is in between the lines and things that they have said. So he puns Mbuyiseni Ndlozi quite a bit when they speak about leadership.
Yes.
He talks about Pambo, also possibly, and those are all guys that came obviously from the student command. So very interesting dynamics to watch in the EFF elective conference this weekend.
Thank you very much for that, Zain. Zain Semaar, there, one of our news editors at Newzroom Africa. Let us know what your thoughts are. Obviously, keep it locked to channel 405, because when we come back, Natasha Thorpe will be standing by with the 6:30 news headlines.